Imagine a world more connected than anything you've ever seen. Ships crossing oceans, trade routes stretching from Britain to India, gold, tin, copper, and bronze moving between a dozen civilizations at once. A globalized world, thriving, innovative, wealthy. And then, in the space of about 50 years, it all vanishes. Cities burned, empires gone, entire cultures wiped off the map. The Bronze Age collapse around 1200 BCE is one of the most dramatic civilizational crashes in human history. Today, I want to give you an answer they don't usually talk about. It's not just about climate change or refugees or earthquakes. It's about something far more fundamental, the nature of capital itself. By around 1400 BCE, the world had already been building for centuries towards something remarkable. You had four great river civilizations: Egypt on the Nile, Mesopotamia on the Tigris and Euphrates, China on the Yellow River, and the Indus Valley civilization. These weren't isolated backwaters. They were trading with each other. They were at war with each other. And that constant competition drove one of the most important technological discoveries in human history: bronze. Bronze is an alloy. You need both tin and copper to make it. Copper is pretty common. Tin, on the other hand, is scattered all over the world in mountain deposits. That scarcity is what changed everything. To get tin, you had to build trade routes, and those trade routes turned the ancient world into a single interconnected system. Shipwrecks discovered in the Mediterranean have confirmed this. You find pottery from Egypt, metals from Anatolia, copper from Cyprus, tin from Afghanistan, all in the same hold. And at the center of this world sat a city called Troy. Not coincidentally. Capital has three characteristics. First, it has to be universal, meaning everyone agrees it has value. Second, it has to store value well. Third, it has to be mobile. You can move it cheaply from one place to another. Grain fails all three tests. Cattle is hard to transport. Even slaves are unstable and unpredictable. But bronze was the first real universal currency in human history. When capital first enters a community, something good happens. People work harder, they innovate, they take risks. Trade expands, cities grow, wealth multiplies. But capital has a dark side. When money enters the picture, it shifts how people see each other. Instead of relating to your neighbor as a person, you start seeing them as a resource. Think about what Troy really was. Troy sat at a strategic choke point between the Aegean and the Black Sea. Control Troy, and you control the most important trade route in the ancient world. That's why there was a Trojan War. It wasn't really a war over a beautiful woman. It was a trade war, a resource war. The Mycenaean Greeks were really a pirate civilization. Their main business was controlling sea routes and raiding. The Hittite Empire was built on controlling mountain passes and metal deposits. All of these societies were locked into the same system. Bronze flowed through trade networks that covered everything from Scandinavia to India. Starting around 1200 BCE, the system began to fracture. Climate change brought drought. Drought brought famine. Famine brought refugees, what ancient Egyptian records call the Sea Peoples. They overwhelmed the weaker states. Mycenaean Greece collapsed. The Hittite Empire vanished almost overnight. Even mighty Egypt was hit 3 times and left permanently weakened. Eric Klein, an archaeologist, calls it a perfect storm: climate change, earthquakes, civil wars, migration crises, all hitting at once. But why did the storm hit so hard? Because capital had already done its damage from the inside. By 1200 BCE, the Bronze Age system had reached the end of the growth phase. Every source of tin had been found and exploited. The elite had accumulated enormous wealth, while the people doing the actual labor were being squeezed harder and harder. When the Sea Peoples arrived, there was no resilience left. The elaborate palace economies broke down immediately. A world that looked powerful from the outside was hollow on the inside. This is not unique to the Bronze Age. Look at the world right before World War I. It was the most globalized era in human history at that point. Economists argued that trade had made war impossible. The pattern repeats because the logic of capital always follows the same arc. It drives growth, it creates wealth, but it also breeds inequality, exploitation, and fragility. The Bronze Age collapse is not just ancient history, it's a mirror. Our world today is more interconnected than anything the Mycenaeans could have imagined. The scholars who study the Bronze Age keep making the same observation. This looks familiar. The Sea Peoples didn't destroy the Bronze Age. The Bronze Age had already destroyed itself. The Sea Peoples just arrived at the funeral. Something to think about the next time you hear someone say that trade will make war impossible. Thanks for